What really makes a country a global superpower? Is it the size of its army, the wealth of its economy, or its ability to talk its way through a crisis? The truth is, it's a delicate and often explosive combination of all three. Welcome to the Equation of Influence, the framework that explains how nations rise and fall on the world stage. Today, we're going to decode this complex formula, breaking down the three fundamental pillars that shape our world: military might, economic leverage, and diplomatic maneuvering. Understanding this equation is key to understanding modern geopolitics, from headline-grabbing conflicts to the subtle shifts in power that happen every single day. So, stick around as we unravel how the game of global influence is truly played. Let's start with the most visible and visceral pillar of power: military might. When you think of a superpower, you probably picture aircraft carriers slicing through the ocean, stealth bombers tearing across the sky, or perfectly synchronized soldiers marching in formation, and you're not wrong. A nation's military is its ultimate insurance policy and its most potent tool of coercion. It's not just about the number of tanks or troops, it's about technological superiority. We're talking about next-generation fighter jets that can dominate the airspace, hypersonic missiles that are nearly impossible to intercept, and advanced cyber warfare capabilities that can cripple an opponent's infrastructure without firing a single shot. The United States' global network of military bases, for example, allows it to project power anywhere on the planet within hours. This isn't just for fighting wars. The mere presence of a naval fleet in a contested sea can deter aggression and reassure allies. It's a psychological game. The perception of strength is often as important as the strength itself. A powerful military sends a clear message to the world: don't mess with us. It creates a sphere of influence, forcing other nations to think twice before challenging your interests. This display of force shapes alliances, dictates foreign policy, and serves as the hard power backstop for all other forms of influence. But in our interconnected world, wars are costly and destructive. Often, the most effective weapon isn't a missile. It's money. This brings us to our second pillar: economic leverage. A nation with a dominant economy can shape the world to its advantage without ever deploying a single soldier. Think about it. The US dollar is the world's primary reserve currency. This gives the United States immense power. It can impose sanctions that cut entire countries off from the global financial system, effectively crippling their economies. Look at the sanctions placed on Russia or Iran. They are designed to pressure these governments by targeting their ability to trade and access capital. It's economic warfare, but leverage isn't always punitive. It's also about creating dependencies and shared interests. China's Belt and Road Initiative is a perfect example. By investing billions in infrastructure projects across Asia, Africa, and Europe, China is not just building roads and ports. It's building a network of economic partners who are increasingly aligned with its strategic goals. Countries that benefit from these projects are less likely to oppose China on the international stage. Trade agreements are another powerful tool. By setting the rules of global commerce, a country can favor its own industries and create favorable conditions for its corporations. Controlling key supply chains, whether for microchips or rare earth minerals, also provides a massive strategic advantage. In the 21st century, economic power is the ability to control the flow of goods, money, and technology. It's a quieter, more subtle form of dominance, but its impact can be just as profound as any army. Now, if military might is the stick and economic leverage is the carrot, then diplomatic maneuvering is the art of knowing when and how to use them. This is our third pillar, and it's perhaps the most complex. Diplomacy is a continuous conversation between nations. The silent work that happens in the halls of the United Nations, in secret back-channel meetings, and at high-stakes summits. It's about building relationships and forging alliances. A strong network of allies amplifies a nation's power. NATO, for instance, is a military alliance built on the principle of collective defense, which has been a cornerstone of Western security for decades. The Quad, an alliance between the US, Japan, Australia, and India is a more recent example of nations coming together to balance China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific. Diplomacy is also the craft of negotiation, of finding common ground and hammering out treaties on everything from climate change to nuclear. Not skilled diplomats can shape international law and global norms, framing debates in a way that favors their country's interests. This is often called soft power, the ability to attract and persuade rather than coerce. It's about exporting culture, values, and ideas. When people around the world watch Hollywood movies, listen to K-pop, or use American social media platforms, a subtle form of influence is at play. This cultural appeal makes a nation's foreign policy goals seem more legitimate and attractive. Diplomacy is the strategic mind that directs the other pillars, turning raw power into targeted, effective influence. So we have military, economic, and diplomatic power. But here's the crucial part. They don't operate in isolation. The true genius of a global power lies in the balancing act, the constant, dynamic interplay between these three pillars. This is the heart of the equation of influence. A nation cannot rely on just one pillar. A country with a massive army but a weak economy will eventually collapse under the financial strain, like the Soviet Union. A nation with a vibrant economy but no military to protect its trade routes is vulnerable to aggression, and a country with great diplomats but no hard power to back them up will find their words falling on deaf ears. Real influence comes from synergy. For example, a nation might use the threat of military intervention to bring another country to the negotiating table. That's military power supporting diplomacy. Once there, it might offer a favorable trade deal in exchange for concessions. That's economic leverage sweetening the diplomatic pot. Conversely, a country might use its diplomatic clout in the UN to rally international support for economic sanctions against a rival. This constant adjustment is like a complex dance. A shift in one area requires a recalibration in the others. The rise of China is a masterclass in this balancing act. It began with a focus on economic growth, which then funded a massive military modernization, and is now being complemented by an increasingly assertive diplomatic strategy. The United States, on the other hand, is constantly reevaluating its own mix, debating whether to invest more in its military edge, strengthen its economic competitiveness, or rebuild its traditional alliances. This balancing act is what defines the global power struggle. It's a high-stakes, perpetual game of three-dimensional chess, where a single miscalculation can change the fate of nations. So, the equation of influence isn't a static formula. It's a living, breathing model for understanding our world. It shows us that global power is a multifaceted and constantly shifting landscape. Military might provides the security and the ultimate threat. Economic leverage offers the tools for reward and punishment, and diplomatic skill weaves it all together into a coherent strategy. Together, these three pillars determine a nation's standing, its ability to shape events, and its very survival in the competitive arena of international relations. The rise and fall of empires, the outcomes of modern conflicts, and the future of the global order are all written in the language of this intricate equation. By understanding how these forces interact, we can begin to see the world not as a chaotic series of events, but as a complex system governed by the timeless pursuit of influence. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the equation of influence. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that decodes the world around us. Let me know in the comments which pillar you think is most important in the 21st century. See you in the next video.